Welcome to Financial Revelations. I am David Safransky, your host, as always. And, you could reach us anytime you want on Twitter at SkiBucks1, the number one, SkiBucks1. It'll all be scrolling down here, but I feel like I should say it. 1-800-344-2534 to call the office. And you can hear me on WCRF 103.3 every Thursday morning from 0800 to 0900. We'll be at the prayer breakfast this week at the IX Center, but we'll be on the air and we're going to do it from there. I got the mayor of Armandoville a sash. It says Mr. Mayor of Armandoville on it. So I don't know if Phil is going to be there or not, but if he is, that's great. I'm going to bring the sash anyway, and I'm going to wear one just for the heck of it because there'll be a lot of people there. And if you wanted to email questions to Corey for the broadcast, you could email Corey at epsf.com, and it's Kory. Also probably scrolling down here. Quickly on the Fed, I don't want to belabor this point because I think they're getting near the end of rate hikes, but they're not there yet. And I think Chair Powell goes 25 basis points in June. Now, admittedly, I'm in the minority on this. A lot of people are trying to convince me why the Fed is not going to go 25 basis points, that they've seen enough, that they've done enough, and that they're going to kill the market. And, some of that may be true, but I think that they're going 25 basis points because unemployment is still at 3.6, 3.7%. And it's too low for the Fed. They can't have it there. There's too much wage inflation. And inflation in general is starting to really get embedded in the economy. And I got to tell you, the things that keep the Fed up at night, this is one of them. And I said a long time ago, before the Fed even started raising rates, that given the price increases that were happening, that alarm bells should be going off in the heads of the Fed presidents, and they weren't, or maybe they were and they decided to wait, but whatever the case is, they acted way too slowly and took way too long. So I do think that they're going to go a little bit longer than what most people think, and I personally think they should. Now, it does potentially make the banking crisis worse, but people are going to suffer if there's a banking crisis, and people are going to suffer, way more people suffer if there's inflation that is uncontrollable. So I think they're going to make a choice, a calculated choice. And Loretta Mester, who is the Fed president of Cleveland, I don't think she's a voting member, Neil Kashkari, who's in Minneapolis, and some others are with me on this. I actually met Loretta Mester one time in an airport, Houston. I think I scared the heck out of her because I recognized her. She was just kind of standing out in the open, no security, no private jets for the Fed. I kind of like that. And she was sitting in row 38. And I didn't offer to change seats with her. I was in seat 3. And I think I got the better deal on that one. But so I think they raise in June, and then we'll have to see what the data looks like. Quickly on bonds, short-term bonds, 1 year or less, governments are a pretty good deal. The highest rates seem to be really a month or a month and a half, 2 months. So you could buy one of those bonds, and when they come due, the cash gets deposited right back into your account that you bought it from. If you're using a brokerage account, you can go to treasurydirect.gov and buy bonds there. They'll probably redeposit the money into a checking account. There are some really good options out there. So if you don't want to have your money in a regional bank, and there's a lot of regional banks that I think probably are in a little bit of trouble right now. With another rate hike, it's going to get worse. If you want to get some money out of those regional banks and put them in a place that is backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government, a short-term U.S. government treasury is a good place. Now, if you have emergency funds, don't put all your emergency funds in a 1-month bond because you can't get at it for a month. Now, you could sell the bond early, but there could be a market adjustment. You could lose a little bit of money. If you hold a bond to maturity, you get all your money back plus your last interest payment. So the government bonds are considered risk-free. The risk-free rate is on whatever government bonds are paying. So some of your money, maybe take half of your emergency fund money and put it in there. Or if you're just holding a lot of cash in the bank, it might be a good option to put it there because you've really taken it out of risk. There's no risk in a government bond, which leads me to our listener question of the day, which, of course, anybody could ask a question. You can call here and ask a question. You can email and ask a question. You can ask me one on Twitter, which we do get from time to time. I happen to love Twitter, mainly because of the news that's on Twitter and some of the reporting that's coming out on the government and what we did during COVID. It's the only place that is broadcasting this stuff. The lies that were told, the deceit that we were put under, really extraordinary. It's only coming out on Twitter. I love what Elon Musk has done there. I love Elon Musk. He's our version of Einstein. He developed a rocket that could be used, a booster that could be reused, saved hundreds of millions of dollars per launch. And before Elon Musk, we were using the Russians to take our astronauts to the space station. The United States does not rely on Russia. End of story. So the listener question on the debt ceiling: where did the debt ceiling come from? It was voted in by Congress in 1970 in response to World War I to help control spending in World War I. I would love to go back to those levels of spending. It's impossible. So it's silly to even say that, but every year now we overspend, every single year, and there are things that we have to spend on. And once the government, Ronald Reagan said the most permanent thing ever is a temporary government program. Once you spend the money, it's hard to go back. So only Congress can authorize spending, and that's where this is where the battle for the debt ceiling comes, because the president, the administration, no matter who it is, has no power of the purse. It only resides with Congress. And so if you have a Congress and a president of one party, usually a lot of money gets spent. If you have a Congress of different party than the president, then there's some accountability, and that's what we have right now. So the House Republicans have voted to raise the debt ceiling. There's a bill that's been passed in the House. It's not been passed in the Senate. That's run by the Democrats. The Republicans have said they will raise the debt ceiling if it is accompanied by certain spending cuts in other areas. And the administration has said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to cut spending. The administration is all in on electrification. They want it to continue. They want it to accelerate. They want all cars to be electric. Corey and I had the discussion yesterday about electric vehicles and how stupid it is if you want to go anywhere substantial. I rented a car recently in Birmingham, Alabama. I was driving about an hour away. They only had a Tesla Model 3 left. Now, I love Tesla. I love the company, and the cars are works of art. However, I drive this 50 miles, mainly country roads, and I get to my location, and I'm at 60% battery life. So I charge it overnight. They had a charging station there. It charged to about 93%. That's where it stops charging because they don't want to take the battery to 100%. It shortens the life of the battery. I drove it back a couple of days later after not driving it the whole time. I was down to 58% on my battery. That was it driving an hour. Now, if I get in my F-150, which has got a 34-gallon tank, I could drive for about 8 hours with that before I got to stop. Now, there's other conditions that are going to make me stop before that, like the extra large iced tea I drank when I got in the car. I'm going to stop before and then it's going to take me 15 minutes to fill up my tank. So there's a lot of things that need to be perfected about electric vehicles. Now, if you live in a tight radius, I used to live 5 minutes from the office. I don't anymore, but I could live in this 5-mile radius of Avon, Ohio. Maybe an electric car would make sense for that. But now that I live kind of, 25 miles away, it's a little different. The Hertz location also said, hey, by the way, you got to bring it back at 80% charge. I'm like, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. No way. And so they cut me a break because it was the only car they had left. So, the administration does not want to cut spending on the environment. It's their religion. The environment is the religion of people who don't believe in anything. It's a cult. There is no global warming. There is none. Temperatures haven't risen to any degree in 15 years. We are the cleanest country in the world, yet we're going to pay the price for everybody else. We have to fight this with every fiber of our body, with everything we have. We have to fight the climate cult religion that says man is bad and we're causing the planet to decay. That's not true. It's never been true. When I was in college, back in the mid-'80s, we were studying global cooling. In fact, if the Earth had cooled one more degree, one half of one more degree, we weren't going to be able to grow crops above the Mason-Dixon line and we would starve to death. And in a very short time of about 5 to 7 years, it changed from global cooling, which was they were all in on that, but it didn't get enough money, so they transferred it to global warming, which for some reason, probably Fifth Avenue got involved and marketed it to the nth degree. Now that's what we got. And so it's a lie. I'm telling you, it's a lie. I study this stuff all the time. Weather patterns change because of ocean currents. For instance, on the western coast of South America is a current called the Humboldt Current, and it controls the weather. And every once in a while, that current changes paths, and it changes the weather. It'll heat up, it'll cool down, it'll do all kinds of things. We have no effect on that whatsoever. We don't even know why it happens. So windmills, electric cars, solar, I think we should explore those things. We should look into those things. They shouldn't be mandated. We should be doing nuclear power. A nuclear power plant just opened in the Netherlands and it dropped power rates by 75%. The cost, 75%. We should be doing nuclear power. We should also be doing oil and natural gas. We should be doing all of these things in concert with each other. And instead, this administration wants to basically bankrupt America for the new Green Deal. It's a stupid thing, and they're doing stupid things. And I think the collective IQ of the White House right now is 4, if you really look at them. So fight it. The debt ceiling is going to get raised. To get back to the debt ceiling. Sorry. It's going to get raised. And even if it doesn't get raised in time, we have enough money to pay things. There's not going to be a catastrophe. I spend more time worrying about armpit sweat than I do about the debt ceiling. So if that gives you any idea of how much I'm concerned about it, I'm not concerned about it. There'll be an 11th hour deal. The White House is already showing signs of buckling, which they should, because they've spent way too much money anyway. And if you cut spending, it is going to help inflation. So I'm all with the Republicans on this one. We have an election coming up. Remember what people did to you in COVID. Remember what they did to you. Remember how they made your kids wear masks. And it shows, and the data and the information coming out on Twitter says they knew that masks didn't work. They knew that 6-foot distance didn't work. They knew all these things. It's a cult. Don't get involved in it. Fight it. Fight it with me. I'm going to be so actively involved in this next election. Ohio's a safe place because we vote Republican, but I'm going to have to go to a state that doesn't, and I'm going to have to remind people what they did to you and me. And you look at countries like Australia, Western democracy, where it was even worse there. They would drag you out of your house and put you in an internment camp in a Western democracy. That's what happens when you give up your guns. Don't ever give up guns. You know my favorite precious metal is brass because it fits in a 9mm. I am David Safransky, a real American. I'm the realest American you're going to see today, probably. A true red-blooded patriot and the voice you can trust.